Alright, hi everyone. Welcome to USG. I think this is our 6th convening, but the agenda is not in front of me, so I genuinely cannot remember. Thank you all for being here. We're going to call to open at 6:33 p.m. Can everybody hear me all right? Just give me a thumbs up if you can hear me. I don't know if this mic is doing... Okay, great. Alright, so we're calling to open. We're going to move into public comment. So for those of you who are new, public comment is an opportunity for people who are not in USG, and particularly people who are not senators, to come to USG and talk to us about what we're doing, maybe how we can help them. It's really just a space that's open to the public. And it's a really great opportunity that I wish more students would take advantage of, because it's ways for us to connect with people that we're here to serve, the people that elected us. And we have an opportunity to do that today because we have Sam Lamb from the Transfer Students Association here to speak to us about how we can support them more. And hopefully after this meeting is over, you can connect with Sam, I can send out her contact info, and we can work with the transfer students to see how we as USG can work better with them to support their needs. So Sam, if you want to come up here, everybody a round of applause for Sam.
Hey everyone, I'm Sam Lamb, she, her. I'm here to represent the Transfer Student Association, or TSA, a Tier 2 organization that bolsters community building through hosting consistent meetings and large-scale events. I'm here to urge USG to open ex officio seats for transfer and campus change students who are currently unrepresented in student government. At Storrs, approximately 6,000 members of the undergraduate population are transfer or campus changers. That is over 30% of undergrad students, essentially making up over an entire graduating class. Transfer-minded faculty members at UConn are in the early stages of creating a physical office on campus for transfer and campus change students. In order for UConn to invest in their transfer students, they need to first invest in the staff members and representatives who are passionate about helping such a large portion of your constituents. Instead, they are allowing these advisors to overwork themselves to open an office and schedule events on top of their actual jobs, which will eventually burn them out. There is no formal staff nor budget specifically for transfer or campus change students. Transfers and campus changers have a specialized set of needs that are not currently being met. We are more at risk of social isolation and academic probation than the average student, and we do not have the resources that reflect those needs yet. We need specialized advisors in an office with high visibility who can help us to graduate on time and who we can rely on to tell us about resources that are available to us. We need our voices to be heard by appointing fellow transfer and campus change students to represent us in USG so that we can pressure the administration to reach these goals. Transfers come in and out of UConn faster than the traditional students, so there is less pressure for initiatives that benefit them to actually be implemented. Students coming to UConn as freshmen are not more deserving of a good college experience, and we need to see UConn show us that we matter too. 2 weeks ago, in celebration of National Transfer Student Appreciation Week, TSA had a table in the student union, and we asked students how UConn could better support transfer and campus changers like us. Please feel free to check out our poster with student responses, which is over there, back of the room, to see what conversations are already happening, and I would also be happy to answer any questions that you have. Thank you.
Thank you, Sam. That was wonderful. Does anyone have any questions for Sam while she's here? Obviously, I'll send out her info because I think this is a great way for us to have a partnership with the Transfer Student Association. Great ideas, but anyone have any questions right now? Okay, well, Sam's poster is in the back, so you can check that out. Thank you so much again, Sam. One more round of applause. That's amazing. Okay, awesome. So, again, I'll send that info out in a follow-up email. You can reach out to Sam and the transfer students afterwards, and maybe we should discuss during caucus next week if there are some pieces of legislation we might want to propose, maybe an ex officio seat that we can consider. So we'll talk about that, and again, thank you for coming. And with that, let's look at the agenda. We're going to skip the reports, so the reports are linked in the agenda if you want to take a look at what everyone's been up to. each of us individually, or just reach out to me and I can get that information for you. But the reports should be up there, and then from there we're going to move into our voting items. So as you all know, oh yeah, what's up?
Oh, it says we need access to the document.
For the reports?
Yeah.
Okay, I'll have the wonderful Holly Ann is going to update the sharing settings. Thank you so much for bringing that to my attention. And so if you have any questions on reports, once the sharing settings are updated, just let me know. In the meantime, we'll move into voting items, and of course, as we always do, we have to vote on the previous minutes. So the minutes that are up on the agenda are the minutes from 10/20/21. So we're going to motion to discuss these minutes, so we're going to move into questions. Any questions on the minutes from 10/20/21? I hope I'm saying that correctly. Okay. Did I? Thank God. Okay. Any points of discussion on the minutes? Okay, seeing none, I'm going to motion to pass them by unanimous consent. Any objections? Okay, great. So we've got that out of the way. The minutes have passed, and with that, we move into, I think, what everyone is actually here for, which is the Parliamentarian Election. So, for all of those who are new to USG, elections are a really big deal, and usually parliamentarian elections take place in the spring, which is when the speaker election also takes place. They take place at first, last, together. Now, we have a special case this year that all of you are witness to, where we're electing a parliamentarian in the fall. And that's extra special because this parliamentarian is going to be the person that's going to interface with all of you for a great deal of the year. And so I really encourage you all to be very invested in the election because you'll be voting on that person. And so it's very much at your hands to decide that you pick a person that represents you, that is a person that you agree with, and a person that you hope will do a really good job as parliamentarian of the Senate. Okay, so the way that this is going to work is we're going to first have opening statements from each of the candidates. So we'll introduce them, you'll get to know who they are, they'll talk a little bit about themselves. Those are going to go for a maximum of 5 minutes each. Once we've done opening statements, we're going to move into discussion. We'll move into questions first. So the questions that all of you submitted into your form that I sent out a few days ago and also again today, those questions are going to be asked today, and each of the candidates is going to have an opportunity to answer those questions. They'll have about 90 seconds each to respond. So the way we're going to do that is I'll ask that each person come up to the microphone as I call you up one by one, and then you'll ask your question, and the candidates will respond using that microphone. Now, if you'd rather your question be asked anonymously, just text me. I know some of you have already done that. And after that, we're going to move into discussion, which is just an opportunity for senators. And I emphasize senators because only senators can participate in the election, which is what makes it extra special. Only senators can participate in the questions and discussion portion. Okay. Once the discussion is concluded, we're going to move into voting. And the way that that's going to work is I'm going to ask that all of you take out your laptops or whatever device you brought, and I'm going to send out a form that was made by the judiciary where you're going to select which candidate you would like to vote for. So that's going to open up towards the end of the election. You'll vote, and then we will check. We're going to cross-reference that with our spreadsheet of who's in USG and who's a senator, and then you'll know who the parliamentarian is by the end of that. After the election is over, we actually do have voting items. We have 2 pieces of legislation, so you might be here for a while today. But it'll be a full Senate. I think this is actually, for many of you, going to be the first opportunity to have a real, true, comprehensive Senate. So I'm very excited for all of you. And that'll be our Senate for today. So any questions before we move on into the election? Okay, cool. So we're starting the parliamentarian election for the 2021-2022 year. I'm going to begin by having each of the candidates briefly introduce themselves. No openings, just like if you want to say to the mic what your names are and what your pronouns are. So maybe start with Stan and move the mic down. Is it on?
Hello. Hi everyone, I'm Stan. Pronoun he, him, his. Nice to meet y'all. Good evening.
Hi everyone, my name is Ramira Josh. I go by she, her pronouns. Can't wait to get started.
Hello everyone, my name is Joe Sanford, he, him, his, and I am also just as ready.
Awesome. Okay, so first, round of applause, obviously, for our candidates. They're putting themselves out there. Thank you all for being here. We're going to get started with Stan. So Stan, if you want to bring up your opening statement, and you'll have 5 minutes, I'll start the timer. Whenever you're ready to go, actually, you just press start so that you have...
Hello. Good evening, Senators. Stan. In my speech, firstly, I'm going to tell you the responsibility of a parliamentarian. Secondly, I'm going to tell you my previous experience in student government that prepared me for this position. Lastly, and most importantly, I'm going to share with you the things that I will bring to this position that is unique. Parliamentarian assists the Speaker of Senate with organizing Senate and carry out many of the administrative tasks that Speaker of Senate delegate. Parliamentarian reads up on parliamentary procedure and navigate the rules of Senate. In short, we're looking for a responsible, understanding, and caring individual who frequently interact with senators. In high school, student government, I was once president. My proudest achievement during my term of presidency was the day I passed an academic legislation for a longer deadline extension. The deadline extension was 12 hours, and I lengthened it to 48 hours. In the aspect of student life, I organized an array of events, including lip sync battles, blind date nights, school competition days, parties, cosplay days, performance days, and Spirit Week. I also routinely planned pizza days and also movie nights for my high school. I will tell you why my experience in organizing activity mattered here. Because senators are going to have another bonding retreat that is organized by a parliamentarian. Therefore, if you want an eventful day, you gotta vote for me. And as you can see, my years of experience in handling logistics, communicating with various parties, and organizing events have thoroughly prepared me in being the position of parliamentarian. Hey, I also check my email every 30 minutes if that's not enough. What I will bring to this position of parliamentarian that is different than previous terms. Well, parliamentarian is in charge of taking attendance for the weekly Senate meeting. I'm flexible with attendance and our form of communication, and I will make the attendance requirement more reasonable for everyone. Like if you're sick or have personal issue, well, you just shoot me a text and you'll be all good. It's normal to have things that are out of our control, and I'll be willing to understand your reason. I understand the feeling of being new to USG, and it's important for you to choose an individual in this position, like myself, who is relatable to your first-time experience in USG. As a senator once reflected on her experience in USG, she said, "We just come and go in USG. The bonding experience is lacking here. The opportunity for bonding and making connection in USG is exactly what I would introduce if I were parliamentarian. I will get to know each and every one of you, not only know the population that you represent, but most importantly, listen to you and help you maximize your experience at USG. And honestly, you know what? Even if one day you're just feeling emo and you come to me and be like, oh, Stan, man, I feel so emo, man, this girl broke my heart, man. I will just be like, you know what? Deep breathe, man. Everything's gonna be okay. Here's the ticket to the Taylor Swift concert, man. The point is, I will make this position down to earth and wholesome. And as a parliamentarian, it's my job to take great care of you and all the senators, and make sure you maximize your experience in USG. And if you're thinking that I'm just saying stuff here, no, I'm actually not. I actually have plans in order. Firstly, I'll make a one-on-one chat with you. It's not mandatory. It's just my way of getting to know you, and we could literally talk about anything. It's not USG-related topic, although you're more than welcome to talk about that with me. Secondly, I'll introduce you to the two senators selected randomly, and we'll just grab some food together and get to know each other. Lastly, and most importantly, we'll discuss about the possible things that we can do for our senator retreat. And I think the best way to ensure everyone enjoy the retreat is by planning it together. And boom, connection made. Now we're family. Well, that went a bit too far. In conclusion, senators who are voting today, you want a capable, responsible, and caring, wholesome individual who enhances your experience in USG. And I believe that I will bring these qualities to this position. And I believe that my previous experience in student government has prepared me thoroughly to be parliamentarian of this academic year. Vote for Stan. Thank you.
Thank you, Stan. Great speech. And then we have an opening from Ramya. So if you want to come up and introduce yourself.
Can I just hold it? This one? Okay. Back to what I was saying. The parliamentarian position is essentially a Senate leadership position that works between or amongst the Speaker of the Senate as well as the Deputy Speaker and serves as a liaison between the Senate body and Senate leadership. They are responsible for ensuring that Senate follows all protocol through the governing documents, such as the USG Constitution. And lastly, and most importantly, we are here to make sure that all of you are diligently attending your committee assignments, as well as your Senate and caucus meetings. So what makes me qualified? I feel that working both in private and public sectors of government has given me the idea and knowledge based in basic day-to-day political practices. I feel that my leadership positions in clubs here at UConn, be it secretary or treasurer, has given me the organizational capacity and making sure me and the Senate Leadership Board is able to conduct organized charts and whatnot in terms of making sure all Senate protocol is followed. And lastly, my ability to communicate across various groups, be it in my experience as a Global House Learning Community member, as well as my participation in the Global Citizenship Program this fall, is a great way of highlighting those abilities. So 2 things I want to focus on in terms of if I were to be elected as parliamentarian for this session are transparency and accessibility. I feel that given this rough COVID pandemic-y climate that we're in, it's been a rough time for all students, especially students that are freshman and sophomore populations coming into UConn. So I want to make sure that when it comes to USG, we are accessible to all students. One possible way is by creating a coalition between committee leaders and Senate members and creating a sort of showroom where committee leaders have the opportunity to demonstrate what their committees are about, who are involved, and most importantly, talk a little bit about the initiatives that they're trying to make. And this can obviously create a sort of collaborative network between student faculty and graduate assistants and whatnot, and creating a sort of network where we can talk about better ways in which legislation can be passed to cater to our students here. Lastly, in terms of accessibility, I feel like as an incoming senator, it is very important to make sure that we are aware that we are a familial network. We're here to make sure that we are obviously here to excel in our studies, in our social lives, and our extracurricular lives as well. So one thing that I would try to do was creating a mental health check-in where, as parliamentarian, I would periodically. Basically periodically schedule meetings with all of y'all to just make sure you guys are okay, whether it be in your social lives, your academic lives, your professional lives, and career lives. Another opportunity that I would try to implement are creating possible mini group chats, basically having a form of communication for different senators, be it your school senators, your residential senators, and your multicultural and diversity senators. That way you all can have an opportunity to get to know each other as well. As I conclude, I just want to make sure that we all are aware that we are the Husky Nation, we're a family, and we are all here to work together in terms of bettering ourselves and one another. And so I feel that irrespective of who wins today, I just want to make sure that you guys know that I'm here for you. If you have any low points, high points, anything you want to talk about, ranting, anything, I'm here for you, and I wish you all the best. Thank you.
Alright everyone, sorry about the technical difficulties. Thank you so much, Ramya, great speech. Like trying to simultaneously fix these mic problems. Pretty sure this was just unplugged. Hello, this work? Okay, we're back. Alright, so now, last but not least, we have Joe, if you want to come and introduce yourself.
Would everybody feel comfortable with me taking my mask off last week? I'm getting little hairs in my nose. Don't mean to be graphic. So anyway. Hello everybody. How are you doing today? Good. I like the mixed opinions. It's natural. It's authentic. My name is Joe Sanford. That's S-A-N-F-O-R-D. My pronouns are he, him, and his. Before I get started tonight, I just want to say to even be where I am here right now, being elected a senator and then running for parliamentarian is a big honor. I take that very personally. I take that very seriously. And it goes without saying, I'm very grateful for this opportunity. I never thought I would be here a year ago in my kitchen watching a stats lecture in my Back to the Future pajama pants making a breakfast burrito. So it's great to know that I can be in the buildings now. It's good. For those of you who I haven't met personally yet, and I do plan on doing that, and also if I need to, I'm going to speak without the mic because you can hear my voice clearly. So for those who haven't I haven't met personally, I am a senior political science student, but right now I'm debating going back for another year for either a sociology minor or to do a one-year master's program in political science. Because I don't want to take a gap year before law school. I have a feeling it won't just be a year. We've all been. First, we have to acknowledge a couple of things. Some things that may be limiting to USG this year. The first of all being that it's obviously the tail end of a pandemic. I've been here for 3 years. I'm also a transfer student. So I thought Sam's words were very valuable before we began here. And to 2 of those 3 years were COVID, so this kind of seems like my last shot to get to know the university that I've technically been attending the last 2 years, and I use those quotes menacingly, and I know I'm not alone there. The term alma mater for COVID-era students is going to seem almost irrelevant. It's going to seem unapplicable, because for a lot of us, going away to school the last few years has meant Toshiba laptop. Basically, flip it up and you flip it down, and that's your engagement with the arts, the sciences, history, English, poetry, your future. It's not good, albeit it's the consequence of the time. Another thing we have to acknowledge is that there are a lot of new senators in this organization, myself included. And that's not all a bad thing. After all, ambition does not require experience. But we are going to have to work together to tackle a lot of delicate issues. Some of those we are very passionate about. A lot of those issues intersect and affect a lot more students than we may know, so we're going to have to be very careful, very respectful, and we're going to treat these very important. And that would be my job as parliamentarian, shortly, obviously. There are multiple reasons why I feel I'm qualified for this position, and that goes to say as well that I don't feel any other candidate is unqualified. However, I am highly socially affable. I am dedicated in my work as not only a paralegal at a very successful law firm, a member of Phi Sigma Pi fraternity, a corrections department for Connecticut secretary at a halfway house, so I know how to talk to people of all walks of life, and I'm also a full-time employee and obviously a full-time student. So I take my work very seriously. I'm very good at time management. I'm diligent, and I'm committed to everything that I do 100%, and I am damn good at it. All right, now we move past that. Being that I've made a couple friends, I've made a couple connections, in a way I've almost brought together some very distant worlds in this community already, even before running for parliamentarian. I feel like it's vitally important for the role, and it's vitally important for the organization as a whole. I have a definite goal or a mission as your parliamentarian as well. This will not be something that I take lightly, and there are 2 things that I want to stress, and those 2 things are communication and cooperation. The goal and the job of the parliamentarian is basically to audit the efficiency of the committees, their senators, and how they represent their constituencies through attendance or through the content of the committees themselves. So the number 1 thing that we have to focus on is communication. Communication will be paramount for the success of USG. For example, I am currently on the External Affairs Committee, and over the last several weeks we have pushed several things that we strongly feel the need to present resolutions for. However, Lily has tried her absolute hardest, but the town of Mansfield will not be able to solve all of our problems, and we certainly know the administration is not going to cut them. These varying issues, including but certainly not limited to widespread food insufficiency, dirty water found in seemingly every residence hall, and a concern for students of all walks of life on this campus about the future of the freedom of expression, all hinge on the cooperation of the massive student body. No one single committee can handle these issues on their own, and we must work together. We must quell internal conflict from a peaceful, respectful, and friendly perspective moving forward in this highly political climate. And we must quickly engage actively in our elected roles, and if elected, I must ensure this process. So to wrap it up, guys, I said a lot of words, but I want to know from you if you trust me after tonight, based on the fact that this organization has the potential to better the lives of tens of thousands of people total. That is going to fall on the arms and the shoulders of the parliamentarian. This I'm ready for. My goal, my job, and my promise to you as your parliamentarian is to be communicative, to be friendly, to be in your face, even sometimes when you don't want it. Because I had a conversation with previous parliamentarian Darren Mack on the phone yesterday, and he informed me that one of the...
It's been 5 minutes.
And that's all I have to say, folks. Thank you very much. I hope you're with me. Good luck.
Don't have my gavel. That's not yours.
We'll have gavels soon. I'm really excited for that. Okay. All right, so with that, thank you all for your opening statements. One more round of applause because all of our candidates did a wonderful job with their opening statements. Okay, so what we're going to do now, and it may take me a sec to pull it all up, but we're going to do questions. So if you have a question, get ready because you're going to be coming up soon to speak.
Not you guys.
Yeah, so just to clarify, Holly Ann, who is our lovely Chief Justice, is going to be in charge of the time. This is very bright. Is going to be in charge of the timing for speeches. So what was going to happen now is I'm going to call each of you up to ask your questions. When you ask them, I ask that you ask it into the mic, because that way the people who are watching from our live stream are going to be able to hear it as well. And then we'll go through the order. As long as it's okay with all of our candidates, what we'll do is we'll start with Stan, and we'll go down for one question, and for the next one we'll start with Ramya, and then we'll start with Joe, and that's how we're going to proceed through the questions, so that everybody has an opportunity to answer first versus middle versus last. Okay, and then each candidate will have 30 seconds to respond, and that's an up to amount. All right, so with our first question, we're gonna call on Abby. Abby, if you wanna come up and ask your question to the mic, and if anyone gets called on to ask a question and you don't remember what you asked, again, just let me know and I can literally just like send you a picture of what you asked. Okay, thank you.
Hey, my question is, how do you plan to make Senate or Senate communications more accessible to students with and without disabilities?
Thank you, Abby. Okay, so we're gonna start with Stan. Is the mic working? You all set with the mic? Is that on? Try saying testing? Yeah, okay, that's probably good. Okay, and you've got 90 seconds whenever you're ready. Repeat the question? Abby, could you repeat the question, please?
How do you plan to make Senate or Senate communications more accessible to students with and without disabilities?
Okay, so firstly, I do remember mentioning, so I will definitely like give out my phone number, and so that way it's definitely a more effective way of communication other than email. And for students with disability, so there are definitely like, I will have to arrange some other ways, including like maybe meeting at a spot that's more convenient for her, and also telling her that we will definitely like figure something out, not just like email or something, that anything that's comfortable to her. So there's different type of disabilities, so I'm not really sure which one you want to specifically address, but like in general, I will definitely accommodate her situation in order to communicate with her. At the end, I want to know everybody and also get to know this student body that is senators.
You want to just pass it on?
If and when I were to be elected as parliamentarian, I think the first thing I would try to do is get in contact with each and every one of you. That way we can just talk about your overall expectations in terms of what you want to get out of Senate, as well as any concerns you may have within the Senate body, as well as in your committee assignments. And then I would proceed to just talk to them about preferences in terms of communication. Obviously, I'd offer up my personal contact information, email addresses, and whatnot. But if they were to specify if they had a disability or something like that, I would try to talk to them about what works best for them specifically. And then lastly, if they are comfortable and are willing to work with CSD, that would be a great way to kind of sort of form a coalition in that sense to help cater to their needs the best way possible.
I think this is more of a simple issue than we might be making it out to be. In terms of disabilities, whether or not it be physical or mental, I think the best thing I can do is attempt, as your parliamentarian, to be as open-minded as possible, to be as outreachable as possible, to provide my information to everybody. I do think at the end of the day, if I cannot meet somebody in person, a Zoom call will suffice, and extended text conversations, although my ultimate goal is to meet every single one of you in person and have an awesome conversation about whatever.
So I'm a new senator. I just got into this Senate session this academic year. I'm not as familiar with Darren Mack's previous parliamentarian initiatives that he took. I'm obviously willing to learn as much as possible. So I don't want to come here and speak uninformed to all of y'all, but I will try to do my research as best as I can.
I had a phone call with Darren Mack yesterday, and in that phone call we talked about several items of the USG sort of like intellectual atmosphere, and he kind of, in a nice way, let me know that obviously we are in a very fragile political climate, and in times like this, what's most important is to be amicable, to be friendly and disarming. I feel I'm very prepared for this role because it is a highly social role, and regardless of somebody's affiliations politically or beliefs, I'm able to get past that and get to know the person underneath, because quite frankly, my goals and my priorities as parliamentarian will be to look out for the vested interests of the constituents and the senators, while also maintaining the integrity of the committees. So I think that the biggest problems Darren Mack had in the last parliamentarian sort of cycle were getting people in the latter half of the year to attend Senate meetings, because he had to sort of get a little more abrasive about his tactics. This is something I'm clearly going to have to work around. Another thing being avoiding sort of infighting, echo chambers, biases. And in 5 seconds, I just want to say that I will call those issues.
Okay, so I'm just gonna talk about 2 points real quick. And the first point is that senators, they did express their basically concern about like how USG is just like a come and go meeting, and I happen to know that because I speak with the people in the past. And also, the second point is like there are a lot of like different political views here, as Joe said, and I happen to literally learn conflict management in a class that I'm taking. So like I will definitely bring my knowledge to that and make sure that everybody respect with one another, and also that make sure that we're building a community that's healthy, and also we want to like build this policy upon a healthy communication, and we want everybody to express their thoughts without judgment. So that will be definitely the things that I'll be working on. And also along with that, I will definitely like make sure that everybody like know each other, will consider each other as friends more than just like senators, because that way you won't just feel like this is just something you come and then you leave without like making more like the connection. I want not only respect, I also want each other to feel like you have some sense of legacy or like actual legacy here.
Perfect, thank you. And just to
So this goes hand in hand with what I was saying before. I recently spoke to Darren Mack. He actually came in right before we started here, and we had a little quick conversation. I'm not going to at all disparage Darren Mack. I think he's a great person. I think everything he did was framed in the right mindset. But something I will bring to the role that I think previous administrations may not have is an increased sense of sociability. I can reach many different people of many backgrounds. I've already met a lot of you. We've had awesome conversations. And like I said before, it's very simple. I'm just going to be in your face, friendly about it, and I'm going to make sure that our elected roles are actually carried through, because there's a lot more people to worry about than just the ones inside this room right now. We got about 10,000, so it's going to be difficult at first, but once we manage it, I think it'll be absolutely perfect.
Alright, so other than the 2 points that I've been talking about, and I was like saying that in my speech, that like we're gonna have a Senate retreat, and I feel like most of the time like retreats are just like they're supposed to be bonding experience. However, like the expectation are not often met. So like I'm gonna definitely bring my expertise and also just experiences in organizing like fun events. I'm gonna bring it here to like you guys like at the end of the day, because like my job is to take care of you while you represent the student body. So definitely I'm gonna bring like, we can definitely talk about like fun activities, and like I know I've listed a ton during my speech, but like if you guys have any good ideas, we should definitely talk about it. And also like what's different is like I know that parliamentarian, they usually just like talk to like people one-on-one, and I said that I not only want to get to know you guys, I want you guys to get to know each other. So that's why I mentioned that like we're gonna like have 2 senators like meeting just like randomly, and then like have a dinner or lunch or grab some food together, just to like make a connection here, and also just to make sure that you have something when you mention USG. It's not just something that you come, you listen, and you go.
I'm sure all our previous parliamentarians did a phenomenal job here at USG, but I think what I would bring to the table is just a positive attitude, a smile, and I just want you guys to be able to have a familial network, right? So something that I mentioned in my speech was just trying to create a sort of family, whether it be having mental health check-ins, whether it be having many group chats or something like that, where we just can have a sort of residential or educational or multicultural diversity seats have a way of communicating with one another to just, again, make sure that we're all a family is something that I would try to bring in.
I'm good. Right, so you talk about sustainability, and I imagine that in my definition that for sustainability that we have to stay in contact, and also like the connection and the bond that we made here has to be maintained, right? And also a wise man once told me, and he's actually, so like he told me that service is better than advocacy. And I would like to believe that that is true, and that is what I'm gonna bring. I'm gonna bring service to all the senators. I will definitely advocate stuff, but like my main focus will definitely be on service, because that makes direct impact. That doesn't, it's not just talking, right? Like you want something that's actually good for you. So mental health advocacy, it's not better than like mental health service. Like we could literally have like some of the ideas I'm just like throwing out, maybe like Senator real life ICAC, What do you mean by that? We just go on a blind, like we just go on a dark room, nobody can see each other, and then we just throw in topics like complain about life. So well, that just basically make you have a bond and make you know that we're experiencing the same thing, we're not alone, and also that we support each other. And that also provide you with a safe space to talk about your view, not only politically, but also like in your personal life. So definitely events like that, they're sustainable, and events like that, they're not only advocacy, they're service.
Yeah, so I guess I was just wondering, like, first, is sustainability a priority for you? And if so, how do you plan to work on sustainability initiatives with students and in your role as parliamentarian?
So sustainability is extremely important. I think being a liberal arts college here, we should try to implement safeguarding our environment as much as possible. In terms of how to do so, I think just having a collaborative network, so trying to implement collaborations with UConn Praxis, for instance, and other environmental initiatives at UConn, as well as implementing talks with faculty that have experience with how to mitigate climate change and stuff like that is super important.
As far as sustainability goes, I do see a lot of progress being made in the school with certain initiatives. The biggest problem we have is that certain coalitions can't meet each other, and the job of the parliamentarian is sort of to be a glue that holds committees together. So my job isn't necessarily going to be the think tank of sustainability initiatives. My job is going to be to make sure that people who have the right ideas are capable of networking with each other, because it would be a real big shame if, say, you had 200 people with a similar idea that could change the face of sustainability at UConn forever, and none of them were able to contact each other. My role as a parliamentarian will be first and foremost to make sure that budding ideas actually get to flower.
Excellent. Okay, so the next question is actually anonymous. The question asks, how will you work with the speaker to ensure new senators understand how the Senate operates and their responsibilities as a senator? Absolutely. How will you work with the speaker to ensure new senators understand how the Senate operates and their responsibilities as a senator?
This is something that actually probably shouldn't take more than a couple minutes. I think Irene has been completely socially outgoing since the day I met her. And if me and Irene were in a room with a brand new senator who didn't really know what he or she was doing, it would probably be more easily done, I think, than people might think to get them to fill their role. The most important things to remember as a new senator are to reach out to other senators, to become friends, because college can be lonely first and foremost, and students as a whole, I think it's the statistics like 35 to 40% of us are like clinically depressed at some point in college. That's vitally important to me, especially in this like hyper-technological pandemic world where social interaction is kind of stifled a little bit. Being a new senator can be jarring, confusing, daunting. Sitting in this room, this giant room with all these lights can sometimes be a little frustrating for somebody who's maybe a little more introverted. But my job would be to meet with Irene and get that person as ready and as confident as possible, as quickly as possible.
So this is something that I actually see problems in previous like communication. So like I'm aware that like we always say like if you have problems, reach out, but like really like count on your finger how many people did actually reach out, right? So I feel like more responsible as a parliamentarian, I would reach out to you guys and I'll actively engage in and try to solve like the issue that you're experiencing here at USG. And also like I communicate with the Speaker of Senate also quite frequently, so that we have a good relationship. And so when time comes that we have to help you guys with like, well, simple stuff would be like clarification of Senate, then that would be very easy. Like you just come to me or just come to you, and we can like definitely talk about some like make your confusion disappear. And if you have like other stuff, then like me and Irene, we definitely can like collaboratively help you out with them depending on what they are. And that's really like much it. It really depends on what do you have, and I will definitely actively reach out to you guys from time to time in order to make it sustainable. Our communication doesn't die off. I don't want this just to be a one-time thing. Oh, hey, I'm here and I'm done. So I don't want to be that. So I will definitely reach out to you guys, and that's how I will keep your problems disappear.
I know as a new senator, for me, it was a little daunting coming into this room at first, but I know that with Irene's wonderful emails, very heartwarming, I felt right at home. I I think one of those things that I would try to do if I were to be elected as parliamentarian would be to continue doing that. Always trying to have a smile on our face and trying to get that positivity going with everything that we do is super important. I think I'd go a step further and try to grab lunch with all of y'all, try to get to know one of you guys, and that way we can just go on further. We can talk about any interests or any difficulties you have, whether it be at Senate itself or whether it be in committee meetings as well.
Okay, wonderful. The next question is from Ayush. I also just sent you a screenshot of it in case you, I don't know if that helps, but yeah. All right, Ayush, come on up.
Alright, so this one's a bit lighthearted, but when you guys think of USG, what's the first word that comes to mind and why?
Sorry, can you repeat it?
Alright, I'm just saying, when you think of USG, what's the first word that comes to mind and why?
Hello? Okay, that was weird. I always think of like the phrase, Huskies today is UConn forever, or UConn today, Huskies forever. Excuse me. I think it's super important that we just keep reinstating that we are a family. I know that government can seem daunting, it can seem like a reckless place where there's a lot of political infighting and stuff like that, but it is important to remember that at the end of the day, we've all been elected by our constituents, right? We've all been elected to make sure that we're making a difference here. And so for me, it's just trying to get to that middle ground, trying to understand each other's differences, trying to make sure that we are respectful of one another, and of course, making sure we are a family.
The one word that I think of when I think of USG is responsibility. This is because we are here for a large number, many times over than this room right now. We have to put aside our personal differences. There are going to be some issues, and again, as I said in my speech, this falls on the shoulders of the parliamentarian every time, being a social networker. This is going to be a year where we're going to see some social challenges. We've already seen challenges with climate. We're seeing challenges across the world, and we have a large body of students, all of whom are very diverse, and they're going to need a large, understanding body of senators who will accurately represent them. So responsibility comes to mind because, first and foremost, it's our responsibility to make the students here feel like they can graduate, like they belong, and like this is the place for them.
Did you start? That's what you start. Okay. A lot of words came to my mind. I was like, which one should I pick? And at the end, I settled with service. And this is what student government is about. It's about our service to the student body. And my job as a parliamentarian is also my service to you guys, to all your senators. And service is it is the way to provide ways to solve problems and also to just actually like address an issue. And all the other words, like there are qualities you use to provide service. So my service to you, well, I have to provide service to your confusion to like Senate meeting. I have to provide service to your maybe mental health issue that you want to talk about. I have to, and you have to provide service to the student body that you represent. So the word service really embody student government, and it is also the purpose of student government here at UConn. We provide service, and also as a parliamentarian, I provide service to you guys.
All very beautiful answers. All right, so our next question is from Nicola. Nicola, if you want to come up and ask your question, there you are.
So I actually have two big goals that I wanted to push, and I got these goals from meeting in external affairs. The only problem is, in external affairs, we kind of have to go outward and go into Mansfield, go into Connecticut, go to the UConn administration, but we don't really spend a lot of time focusing on the needs of the students. That's more student affairs, obviously. You can see where I'm going with this parliamentarian bringing together committees. But as far as like the outreach goes, it's very important to make sure that we have like the right pieces of the puzzle together so that we can actually like think about if external affairs is the engine of the car and student affairs is the transmission, and then academic affairs is like the body of the car. Like the car's not going to go anywhere with just one piece. So in certain situations, like say with, I'm sorry, can you repeat like the focal point of the question for me real quick? I don't mean to make you like run across the room.
No, you're good. It was just like, what are your specific goals? Like pick one or two.
Oh, okay, all right, yeah. So, well, I wouldn't say some of them are more important than others because there are legitimate concerns for certain demographics at this university. But I think some goals, and these are not all of them, but some goals that encompass a large amount of students would be, as I said, food insufficiency. My first year here, and I'm not a person of color, so I don't have the problem dealing with inequality as much as I know others might. But I was only eating Moe's and Dog Lane Cafe for like 8 months. Like it was ridiculous. Like I was flying through my savings. I moved myself up here. I'm also, as I said, a transfer student, and that's my Time Warning right there. So that one being one, and the infrastructure of water in buildings is poor, is inhumane. People are showering in rust.
2 points that I want to address, mainly those are my 2 goals. So first of all, I want to make sure that you guys form connection, you guys form bond. That's my first goal. Second goal, I want to address the mental health or like mental stress issue here at UConn, especially during specific time periods, for example, like midterm weeks or final weeks. And the way that I'm gonna, and these 2 goals, they interlink with each other, because if you guys feel more bonded with each other as senators, definitely you guys will provide better service, going back to the previous question, to the student body here at UConn. And the mental health issue that I want to address, again, I emphasize the word service, so I have ideas like we could provide activities like, as I mentioned before, like real life ICYAC, like it's basically put people in like a black room and then just like give them a topic like what stressed you out like this week, right? Tell us about it. Maybe your girlfriend broke your heart, maybe your exam, like, you know, it's just professor is like, you know, being a pain in the ass or something like that. So you talk about it and you actually could feel like you're not alone. And when you feel like not alone, then definitely you feel more connected and your mental health issue is better. And obviously we're probably just gonna hang out. And also we as senators, we're gonna have activities together to form connection and form bond. And thank you.
Okay, I think one of the most important things is I think the things that I want to initiate with Senate leadership would possibly be creating a coalition again between committee leaders and senators. I really think it's important that UConn students have an awareness of what USG is all about, what committees are trying to actively try to do at UConn. So possibly creating a showroom where we have the opportunity to just kind of voice our thoughts on what initiatives we're trying to pass, what we have difficulty with, any sort of questions, concerns that people can bring up there. That would be a great place of interaction and collaboration between UConn and student government. I think it's also important for students to just have access to basic governmental affairs. So we need to make sure that we are all knowledgeable in terms of what UConn's trying to do, what our student government's trying to do, and I think having that coalition is a great way to start.
Okay, so the next question. So the next question is anonymous. The question says, describe your leadership style and what makes you a good leader.
I think one of the defining characteristics of my leadership style would be that I'm open to new ideas. I feel like it's important to not just lead. I think it's very, very important to be respectful and understanding of differences you may have. I think it's important to listen, to understand where people are coming from, and that way leadership is not only effective, it's long-lasting.
Some defining characteristics of my personality. I'm the oldest of 7 children, so I've been changing diapers since I was like 7 years old. That is traumatizing, to say the least. I've had many situations in my life where I've had to meet some oddballs, some outlandish characters. I said before I worked at a halfway house, so I was transitioning like convicted felons, ex-gang members, back into civilian life, giving them jobs, giving them phone plans, setting them up with Alcoholics Anonymous, Narcotics Anonymous. I've met many people of many age ranges, so it might seem, and I don't want to use the word daunting because it's been used like 100 times today, and I want to apologize for that, but it can be a little scary to meet some certain people. I bring to the table an immediate disarming quality that I think will work on all of you, all of our constituents. I think we're going to get to know each other very well, regardless of whether or not I'm parliamentarian. I think you guys will all see my face, know my name, and hear a little bit about me eventually, and I'm planning on the exact reciprocal from all of you. This is something that I'm easily going to stress and probably easy going to succeed in, because I'm going to make you feel like you're my friend immediately, and I promise that.
There are three kind of aspects of my leadership. First, open-minded. Second, understanding. And third, distributing. And open-minded in terms of I don't put my ideas on you guys. I open my mind to listen to what you have to say in a specific situation I have to address. Open-minded in terms of I don't push my thoughts into you guys, and more like actually listen to what you guys have to say, and also understanding. And lastly, is distributing. So as a leader, like you can't just like expect myself or like a specific person to do all the job. Distribution comes in when there's a task, and I know how to. Well, I also listen to you guys, how you guys want to distribute this task in order to more effectively finish them.
Okay. Our next question comes from Karen. Karen, if you want to come up and ask your question.
My question is, what does diversity, equity, and inclusion mean to you? And in your role as parliamentarian, what will you do to empower students in these three areas? Thank you.
Sorry, diversity, equity, and which one?
Inclusion.
Inclusion.
Diversity, equity, and inclusion. So a lot of people throw around like demographic statistics of the school. They say like, oh, the school is mostly white, like what's the problem? And that is the problem. The problem is that we're not looking out for each other. The problem is that we have many different cultures, ethnicities, and social backgrounds kind of mingling together in this one campus, and a lot of us don't really know how to best include most students because we're uncomfortable to go reach out to ask questions like, hey man, what's your ethnic background? Like it might seem inappropriate to almost ask that. Like people look around, I'm seeing heads move around like, how dare you ask this guy's ethnic background? No, I'm gonna want to go out and reach you. Diversity, inclusion, and equity are very important to me because you cannot be a fully functioning student without Maslow's hierarchy of needs, most of those having to do with your inclusion, your biological welfare, your social welfare, and how well you fit into the crowd that you participate in. USG, I'm looking around, seems like a very diverse crowd. So a lot of the, shooting the whatever with people and talking, it's not going to be enough. They're going to want to know who you are, and they're going to want you to know who they are. And that's something that we can treat in two different ways. We can either be highly careful, closed off, and introverted about the way we communicate with each other, which is not the way to get things done, or we can jump on the ball, get to know each other, accept our differences, and celebrate them.
Actually, those three words, they interconnect in my view. And also diversity here, we are seeing like student of color, and also, well, just different cases with like racism here. So diversity, definitely one way to address diversity is by having inclusion. And having inclusion means that you need equity. Like you need to like respect one another, and you need to bond with one another. And also me as a parliamentarian, I provide service for, well, diversity is something that you're kind of given, right? Like what kind of population you have, but I can provide service with inclusion. I can provide service with equity. And also, if you just pay close attention to my ethnic background, I'm Asian. Under this pandemic, I am diversity, equity, and inclusion. Thank you.
I think three words, diversity, equity, and inclusion, are just basic human rights. I think it's important to understand that regardless of where we are coming from, where we go to school, our socioeconomic background, these are just basic human principles that we need to be aware of and be respectful of. Going to a school where there is a lot of diverse populations, it's important to understand again where people are coming from. I think given the political polarization, and just today in this year's era, like this generation's era, is an issue, and the best way of tackling that is by understanding and respecting and listening to people that are different from us, and that includes respecting diversity, making sure we are equitable, and making sure we include all groups in dialogue.
Okay, so the next question is from Lakita, who is actually at home, or at least tuning in virtually, but she asks, representation, is something USG has struggled with in the past and continues to struggle with. What steps will you take to ensure all communities are well represented in USG?
Yeah, can you repeat?
Yeah, absolutely. Representation is something USG has struggled with in the past and continues to struggle with. What steps will you take to ensure all communities are well represented in USG?
So I think this is, again, I'm going to keep saying simple, but I think this is a simple answer. The only thing we can do is outreach. The only way to get people communicating is outreach. There has to be one person who takes the fall socially for everybody else, who goes out there, shakes hands, gets to know people, gets names, gets numbers, gets contact information. That is my job as parliamentarian. That is my job. Social outlet. My job is going to be to connect people together and get the ball rolling on every project possible, because it's very, very easy to get caught up in your own little social circle, your little political echo chamber, but it's very hard to take that step, to be kind, to be extroverted, to look at somebody and say, hey, I want to know everything about you because it will better our school. And that is exactly what I plan to do, outreach.
Could you repeat the question again?
Absolutely. Okay, so the question is, representation is something USG has struggled with in the past and continues to struggle with. What steps will you take to ensure all communities are well represented in USG?
I think the first thing, again, is listening. So, again, being a liaison as parliamentarian involves making sure that any concerns or any issues that senators or even the UConn student body may have are being addressed. So, under Senate leadership, we would try to make sure that we implement that in Senate meetings or caucus meetings, having a sort of anonymous blog maybe where people can voice their concerns that way. I think that just making sure that people do communicate with us, because it's important that we have an accessible outlet for you guys to voice any sort of concerns that way.
First of all, I want you guys to know that when you're not being represented, it means that you're not being provided with the service you need, you're not given the right to speak, your voice is not being listened. And those three aspects are exactly what I'm going to address. So in student committees, definitely, like, we need to have, like, every single committee to have their voice heard. And not only that, we need to make sure that they are providing service to the student body at UConn. And when those three combines, when you are providing service, right, like, as a parliamentarian, I provide service to student committees. I provide service to, like, the senators in each committee. And when I understand that your voice, when I heard your voice, and I know that what do you need, so I can provide that to you. So then you would have a better just in general, attitude or like mental health to give out service to the student body that you represent. So then I heard your voice, so then you are getting represented here at USG. And when you have better mental health and when you feel like you're treated with more respect, then you will better represent the student body that you represent.
Okay, so this next one is a little tricky because it is a situational question. It's also from Lakita, so if you'd like me to repeat it, especially before each of you individually goes, I'm more than happy to do so. The question is as follows. You're in a Senate and you hear a comment made that you think may make specific members of that Senate uncomfortable as it falls in a gray area. The Speaker hasn't intervened and neither have any of the senators, but you aren't sure if it is your place or not to do anything. What would you do? So again, I can totally repeat that if you need me to.
One more time.
Yes, absolutely. Okay, you're in a Senate and you hear a comment made that you think may make specific members of that Senate uncomfortable as it falls in a gray area. The Speaker hasn't intervened and neither have any of the senators, but you aren't sure if it is your place or not to do anything. What would you do?
I think the first thing would be to grab the Speaker of the Senate's attention. I think under leadership we all need to be at the same page, so making sure that is communicated directly to both Deputy Speaker and Speaker of the Senate is important. I think coming to a mutual conclusion as to what is the correct protocol in handling that specific question, because it is a case-by-case situation. I think there should something if that were to occur, that is something that needs to be addressed. I would stress that importance to the Speaker of the Senate as well as the Deputy Speaker. as this is a Senate that is welcoming of all people, and it is not okay whatsoever that anyone should feel uncomfortable for whatever reason.
So if a situation like that were to occur, I would hope ahead of time that the speaker would sort of notice that there was something going on. So in a hypothetical where nobody noticed anything was going on, but I heard something that I didn't like, or I heard something that maybe someone else didn't like, I would definitely kind of look around and be like, hey, anyone else kind of feel a bad vibe about what was just said? If I got the vibe that there was a bad vibe, I would then probably reach out and say something along the lines of like, hey, why don't we be careful? There are a lot of people in the crowd, and some things that we say may be perceived as insensitive, but there also, we can't forget, is a fine line between things that are actually legitimately insensitive and every student's right to the freedom to express him or herself. So this is why I say I would look at the speaker, I would look at my senators, and if I got the general feeling that everybody was uncomfortable with what was just said or what was just done, I would of course have to step in as sort of a social platform to say like, hey guys, we can't stand for that in our meetings. We can't do that because it's obviously morally wrong. But we have to learn to respect each other, and I think if we all do, we won't have situations like that where people are infringed upon. If we all basically learn that people are people and we need to be nice to each other, then there shouldn't be a situation where the speaker and every senator around me is either avoiding or completely missed some sort of insensitive comment.
That was a very extreme situation. I'm the only one who noticed that. Well, okay, even that though, like, first of all, I'm gonna speak with the Speaker of Senate, right? So we're gonna talk to the person who made that comment, and we tell that person to stay, right? We're gonna have a conversation with that person, like individually, me and as the parliamentarian, and with Speaker of Senate. We're gonna have a discussion with him. So we're gonna talk about how that is in the gray area. We're gonna talk about how that might potentially just disrespect some population here. And also, it really depends on the context of the extent of the seriousness here, because we can always contact, for example, Chief Justice or other appropriate party to address this situation, depending on how serious this situation is. And also, we're gonna speak to the population we're gonna speak to that group of students that's gonna be offended. Me and the Speaker of Senate, we're gonna talk about where we address with this individual who made this comment. We told him that or her that it's not okay, and there are better ways to express this. And also, I believe that this situation like this will be better addressed when we don't put the speaker and also that population got offended together, right? We separate them and we talk.
So our final question is from Luke. Luke, if you want to come on up and ask your question.
Hello, everyone. I'd like to know what you personally would do to make senators more accountable to the constituencies and to promote a sense, because is my understanding of being a senator for multiple years that a lot of my constituents don't have a lot of faith in USG. What will you do to try to make us gain that faith of our constituencies?
So as parliamentarian, obviously I would be the liaison between the Senate body as well as the Senate leadership position, and I think part of that entails accountability, like you said. One step would be just, again, having meetings with all of you individually, trying to talk about what your plans were when you try to join Senate R. It's important to make sure that people have a sort of template in what they're trying to initiate, or whether it be in committee meetings and whatnot. So try to just, again, fact check them, see if they're actively interacting with their constituent base, whether it be a residential senator or an academic senator, making sure that needs are met that way.
So this is where we get into the more uncomfortable part of the role. Parliamentarian is going to have to, at some point, take accountability for the senators And there is inevitably, again, I was talking to Darren Mack the other day about this problem, this exact problem. There's going to be a point where some senators fall off and they don't attend the meetings and they don't attend the caucuses and they're not really looking out for their constituents. And then, as a leadership position, I need to look at that and say, is this person suited for the Senate? There's probably a continuum of things I could do. Obviously, the first few steps are going to be very friendly. They're going to be very informal. It's going to be like, hey man, what's going on? Like, or hey girl. No. It's going to be, hey, what's going on? I noticed that you weren't in your committee meeting or you weren't in Senate. Is there something you need to talk about? Like, how's your week going? How's home? When's the last time you went back? Is there anything troubling you? Anything keeping you away from your studies? Even if it's just a mental thing, we can talk it over. But if there is a continued sort of lapse with lethargy, where people are just not attending meetings, they're not taking it seriously, the number one thing you have to remember as an elected official is there are people counting on you. You are not here appointed by your friends. You are here to represent the vested interests of literally thousands of people. So going in, first and foremost, we all have to remember that our positions are very, very important, and it could be very fun being a senator. This is something that not a lot of people get to do. So that's just going to be right off the bat the first thing I say.
So I would like to. The way to interpret your answer would be, your question would be so the student body that you represent, they kind of lose faith in you as this role of senator because, well, I would like to imagine it's because no service is provided to them, and literally service is the central topic of discussion here. And for me, I feel like accountability, responsibility, right, your sense of leadership, and also the extent of influence that USG has, all of these things, they are formed when you provide service. And when you provide service, basically, you would know that your student body would feel like their voice has been heard, their issue is being addressed. It worked again. So if their issue is being addressed, then they won't feel like you're not accountable, right? If you actually address their issue with service, depending on their situation, then they would know that their voice has been heard, they're being represented by the senator. And my job is to understand that every single issue that the senators have, when they listen to their student body, what issue that do their student body have, my job is to understand all of those and try my best to provide specific service that is tailored to the needs of all the student body uniquely, distinctly. So then you will know that, okay, well, your voice being heard, and then you will feel like, USG is accountable. And lastly, I want you guys to know that vote for me, because this is the last question. And my name is Dan Leo. Thank you.
Okay, so thank you to all of our wonderful candidates for responding to the questions. Again, we're going to do this all night, guys, but another round of applause because we answered all of those questions very, very well. And now we move into discussion. So the way that discussion typically works is that each of you as senators has the opportunity, if you would like to, and I emphasize only senators, have the opportunity to come up and say something on behalf of a candidate. You can make a point of discussion in general if you just want to bring up a point that you think people should consider. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to say if you have a point of discussion, whether that be a statement on behalf of a candidate or just a point of discussion in general, raise your hand and I'll call on you one by one. Or you can text me if you prefer that. My phone is right here. And you do not need to speak, but you have the opportunity to do so right now. Okay. So raise your hand. Anybody want to come up and speak? What is
2 minutes.
each?
Per
Yeah, right. So each person who comes up will have 2 minutes max to speak. Okay, Eli, if you want to come up first. And actually, can everyone just make a line behind Eli so that you don't have to call on you can just come on up. If you think of something along the way, just come on up and stand behind in the line. And when your turn comes up, you can just introduce yourself and then bring up your point.
Irene? Yeah, I just have a quick question before the discussion. Will we still be able to talk? Was the previous question round our last chance to talk?
So the answer, so Stan's question is, can the candidates respond to the points of discussion, right? So the answer is no, but you can sort of address those in your closing statement if you'd like to. So that's why you have the closing at the end, which is about 3 minutes long. But yeah, so it's just an opportunity for senators to voice their opinions. Okay, go ahead.
So I'm going to turn and face Senate because Is that board not about you? So I personally am endorsing Ramya for parliamentarian. I've known Ramya for a handful of years, and I can genuinely say that she's one of the most charismatic and authentic people that I know. She's kind, incredibly approachable, and full of creativity and positive energy. Her bright attitude and thorough dedication to whatever she sets her mind to will make her shine in this position. So I encourage you all to vote for Ramya for parliamentarian, because even if you don't know her personally, trust me, you'll want to.
Hi, I'm Kathy. My pronouns are she, her, hers, and I'm also voicing my opinion on Ramya. So I am a new senator. I'm a multicultural diversity senator, and I was very nervous when I first came in, and Ramya is one of the first senators I actually met. And surprisingly, I'm a sophomore. I'm on campus. We're kind of from different worlds because she's a commuter student and she's also an upperclassman. But she was able to find a common ground with me, and we were able to talk about things that we enjoy as well as legislation. I'm also in service committee with her, and she's always very respectful of other people's opinions and loves to contribute. I'd also just like to mention that I do not like the idea of ignoring our differences. I feel like we should embrace them, and that is all.
Hi, I'm Anya. I use any pronouns, and I'm also up here to endorse Ramya for this parliamentarian position. Even though she's been in my anthropology class all year, I literally met her like a couple weeks ago, and she was so nice when I met her. Like Kathy said, she was like one of the first people I really met in Senate, and she's so approachable and always has great ideas too. So I think she'd be great for this position.
Howdy everyone, I'm Luke, as a lot of you know. I'm endorsing Joe for the parliamentarian. I met Joe at the get-together last weekend, or I guess it was 2 weekends now. I think he's a really great guy, charismatic, really understands the issues we have here on campus. And honestly, I feel like he's the one that's going to push us forward to work on actual issues that affect our students. I know in the past, a lot of parliamentarians haven't really pushed, getting to know our constituencies. They haven't pushed town halls or anything, unless there was, of course, a major incident. And, of course, we always need a town hall when that happens, but I think we need more regular town halls. I think we need someone that's going to push us as the Senate to kind of become more accountable to our constituents, and I think he is definitely the person to do that. Thank you.
Thank you all for sharing your opinions and your thoughts. I really appreciate that. I'm also speaking in support of Ramya. I also met her a few weeks ago, and I think along with being really friendly and personable, she also has very clear positions and a clear idea of what she wants to do in this position, and that for me is really exciting and important, as well as an opinion that I find very exciting on sustainability, because that's an issue that I'm also really passionate about, and so I'm glad to see someone taking it really seriously and having kind of clear ideas about what we can do.
Alright everyone, my name is Ayush. I'm an engineering student over here. I was going to say a few words for Ramya. So I had the pleasure of talking to her yesterday about some of her goals and ideas that she would implement as she was parliamentarian. From what I can tell, she really values collaboration and the idea of community within the Senate. She really wants to get to know all of you. She wants to facilitate one-on-ones, worry about mental health, and I really feel like she'd be a great person for this position. Now I've known Ramya for many years, and in the time that I've known her, she's been a fantastic support for me, and believe me, you'd want her by your side.
Hey everyone, I just wanted to briefly speak in support of Joe. I don't know Joe very well, but I know him where it matters. For this particular election, I know him in his role as a member of USG, and he's been a very active and passionate member of the external committee. And I think it would be really great to have new leadership in USG, and I think Joe's trajectory from somebody who wasn't in the organization last year to somebody who was very involved this year would really set a great example for the rest of our body here of what's possible in USG in a short amount of time. And it's something we want for everybody else, right? To develop their potential as leaders. So once again, I'm speaking in support of Joe.
Hello all. Sorry about that. I'm also going to voice my opinion in support of Joe. I met him at the retreat and he was extremely friendly. He was really helpful. He was outgoing, and I think that's something we need, especially with the amount of new people in Senate, to kind of get them in, get them involved. I think that would be good. And we also spoke a bit about some of his policies. I know you mentioned them today. He's really concerned about the student body. I think that's something we all care about deeply. What he mentioned with the water fountains, issues like this, I think that, and affordable meal plans, affordable housing, tuition, all of that stuff, all of that stuff is something we should focus on, and I think he'd do an amazing job with it.
Okay, excellent. Does anyone else have a point of discussion?
Yeah, I'm just gonna endorse Joe, speak on behalf of him. Again, I don't really know Joe too well. I met him the other day during that get-together, and then during our external committee meeting 2 days ago. And just like talking to him in meeting, it's like natural. Even today, like you feel it often. It's like everything seems very like natural. It's like that's what I like. Just someone's like going out there, and you really feel that he really cares, like for what he wants of us. You know, works in halfway houses in spare time. So I definitely feel very genuine sincerity with him. So I endorse Joe.
Okay, wonderful. Any other points of discussion? This is sort of the last chance. Okay, seeing none, what we're going to do is we're going to move into closing statements. So each of the three candidates will have an opportunity to make a statement. They will have up to 3 minutes to speak to all of you, maybe wrap things up, and I think we'll do the opposite order. Is that okay with everyone? Okay, so we'll do the opposite order this time. And Holly, will you be keeping time? Actually, it might make sense for Damani because they can see.
Yeah.
Okay. And after that, I will send out the form so that all of you can vote, and that will be the end of the parliamentarian election. Okay, we're almost there, everyone.
I'm not going to say much, honestly. I wanted to get to the point to like walk around earlier, but I was kind of stuck at the podium. My number one sort of statement to you guys as your parliamentarian is I'm not going to pick sides. I've never picked sides, whether it be socially, politically, or otherwise. I'm going to look at you for who you are as an individual, because I think it matters. If you're running for senator and you want to represent over 10,000 people, you kind of need to be as open-minded as possible. Not only that, you need to be friendly, you need to be outgoing, you need to be sociable, you need to be actively engaged. And at times, this can be the best thing in the world, and other times it can be the worst thing in the world. You're sick, you're depressed. Stan mentioned earlier, your girlfriend just broke your heart. That's not good. You're going to need as much support as you can get from a friendly individual who will be willing, able to go out there, meet you, no matter where you are, no matter what you're doing, no matter what time of the day, and make this entire organization seem as small as possible. Because I feel like if we're all getting to know each other, if we're all friends, and it's mostly informal, our interactions, then our interactions in the Senate are going to mimic that. We're going to be more likely to be friendly, we're going to be more likely to be engaging, we're going to be more likely to get stuff done, and I think that all plays into the student body actually taking us seriously. I don't think this position should be used for political purposes. I think this position should be used solely as a social outlet to meet every single one of you individually and get to know you and let you know that you can trust me with literally anything. We can talk about something I don't even understand. I will still nod my head and pat my back for you. And that is my promise to you.
I'll also do a Cuban shuffle right in the front here. Okay. Hi, everyone. Hi. Okay, there we go. We got some energy. Thanks. Oh my gosh. Also, first of all, huge shout out to all of us for doing this meeting for 2 hours almost. So good job, guys. I want to keep this short and sweet. First of all, thank you for everyone for participating, asking some amazing questions. I think it's super important that we all are collaborative with each other in terms of trying to make this the smooth running and successful Senate we can. So again, thank you for those questions, and Thank you for all the support that we've been having, again, throughout this meeting. All of you guys, thank you. So I just want to conclude and say that irrespective of who wins today, I just want to make sure that you guys are aware that I'm always going to be here for you, no matter what is going on in your lives, personal and otherwise. I want to have my door open for you. We are, again, a family, and I just want you to know that no matter where you're coming from, whatever your political ideas are, we're here to make a difference, okay? Thank you.
It's, indeed been 2 hours, and I want to thank you guys for listening, for all of us speaking, and thank you for your time here. And also, it's just going back to what I said, like, for me, it's all about making connection here at the USG, and also just providing service in general, because that is, I truly believe in providing service, and that is the best way for each and every one of us get heard and get represented. And beyond that, like, everything that I've said today in my speech, nothing's gonna change. Like, regardless who get elected as the parliamentarian of this academic year, like, my words still stand. So really, my speech is not just about being parliamentarian, it's also about, like, what I believe in. And today, we are gonna, like, definitely close up with me telling you guys that not only my words stand true there, and also it's always gonna stand true, like, no matter what the result will be. Thank you.
Okay, yeah, round of applause for all of our candidates. Okay, so I'm going to send you all an email right now. I hope you all have some sort of a device. If you don't, please speak to me. I'm sending it out right now. If you do not receive it within the next minute or two, let me know, because it's possible you may not be on the listserv, which would be a larger issue that I would like to know as soon as possible so I can get you on there. Okay, so email is now out. Check your inboxes. And I don't know, Holly, do we have a time limit on the voting?
Can we hold?
Yeah, as senators you can.
We'll start with 3 minutes and then 5 minutes.
Okay.
Let's try to do it as fast as possible.
Yeah. I like it when it's favor.
We can just count.
Hello. Okay. Hi, everybody. So, we have, as Damani kind of alluded to, there is no candidate who's a clear majority winner. So we're gonna have to go through and have everyone vote again. We really appreciate everyone voting the first time in a very timely manner. We had to remove the candidate that received the lowest of the 3. So unfortunately, Stan has to bow out of the competition at this time, but let's give him a round of applause. As a former parliamentarian, I am very glad that you put yourself out there, so we're gonna have to vote again. Irene, Damani and I already edited the form, so everybody re-vote in the same form. There should only be Ramya and Joe. We're going to be looking for 44 responses again, so please get those in, and we will take another look. So thanks, guys.
Does this reach? Here. Oh, that works. All right, everyone, I'm going to send out the email in a minute. Just give me a second to pull it up, and I'm going to... Yeah, no, I just need to send out... Oh, they can just send the same link. Okay, yeah, so just go back to the email that I sent out and click on the link. Okay.
It's fixed.
Yeah, what's up?
I clicked it and I unclicked it.
No, it says the form is no longer accepted as response.
Who else is everyone good?
All right, raise your hand if you have any problem right now. Anybody having technical difficulties? I think we're good. Cool. seated, we have an announcement from Chief Justice Lau. She's going to be speaking at the front of the room.
Hopefully everyone is back. As you guys know, we've been waiting patiently for the results of the parliamentarian election. As you guys may have noticed, we had a bit of a judiciary debrief, pretty much a hearing, because we were concerned about the second round of voting for the parliamentarian election. In short, we are planning to do a revote of the second round with a new Google form because not only were there multiple revotes, we're concerned about the shifts in the senators voting between the first and the second round, and just like the technological issues, we did see the problem with us like opening the form and then the second form, and that might have made there be multiple revotes. And even though we can delete those revotes, we just want to make sure that the votes can be trusted. So we are emailing this out right now, and then also in terms of addressing the shift between the first and the second vote. What that means is if you're receiving the email, you voted in the first round, we want you, and you should vote in the second round. If you do not vote in the second round, that means you abstain from the vote. So I'm going to send this out right now, and you guys have until 8:57, pretty much like 10 minutes. And we're going to send a full written decision about this, about redoing it, because we understand that is, concerning about an election, but here to answer any questions, and please vote. And you guys can continue with new business as we vote, as people vote.
Can you, if I need to send something to everyone voted. Alright, so to speed up the process, what we're going to do, too short for this. Okay, so what we're going to do is we are going to move on with the rest of the items on the agenda, and then we're going to announce the winner of the parliamentarian election in the announcement section. So then I see you have a question. Do you want to go up to the... Okay. All right. Give me 1 second to set this up. Okay, so next on the voting items, we have...
Yeah, no wonder somebody responsible. I love that.
Okay, so the next thing on the agenda is the motion to pass a resolution concerning the creation of the Truth and Reconciliation Commission at the University of Connecticut. So I'm going to share my screen, and if the authors could come up to the microphone to present their legislation, that would be excellent.
Hello everyone, can you guys hear me? Okay, cool. So, as you know, at a Senate in October, we passed a resolution declaring racism a public health crisis at the University of Connecticut. And I know in the discussion of the legislation, there was a lot of talk about what exactly are we going to be doing once we actually declare racism a public health crisis, and whether or not that legislation had enough, I guess, initiative in it that would substantiate it not just being some form of just a statement that we're putting out, but an actual act that we're doing. So what this resolution is the beginning of a series of resolutions and legislations that are going to be going through the various bodies at this university. And when I mean bodies, I mean governing bodies, so University Senate, which is made up of faculty, staff, and students. This governing body, so USG, Board of Trustees, and other governing bodies as well. What this is a resolution concerning the creation of a Truth and Reconciliation Commission at the University of Connecticut. What a Truth and Reconciliation Commission is, it's kind of like a process in identifying the structures of racism that exist within the university, and then actually actually proposing ideas of how to change those structures. So what we did in declaring racism a public health crisis was acknowledge that racism exists within those structures, and now what this does is more specifically identify those specific structures in order for us to take action on. For those who don't know, the University Senate, which is the Senate I just explained, so the Senate made up of faculty, staff, and students, recently just passed a resolution in support of our declaration of racism as a public health crisis, and they included a call to action, which is to commission a process of truth and reconciliation at the University of Connecticut, and that's exactly what this legislation does. What it does is outline where that process would be happening. So as you can see, it says in the legislation that that process would be happening. That process would be happening in the Justice, Equity, Diversity, and Inclusion Committee. Justice, Equity, Diversity, and Inclusion Committee serves in University Senate. The reason why we thought that would be the best area in which that would be the best committee for this truth and reconciliation process to be outlined and then conducted in is because it is a committee made up of faculty, staff, and students. It's one of the only committees at the University of Connecticut that has about equal representation of faculty, staff, and students that are talking about justice, equity, diversity, and inclusion. We go into a number of different things, including SB 1. For those who don't know what SB 1 is, Senate Bill 1 that was passed by the House of Representatives, or the General Assembly of Connecticut, which outlines the truth and reconciliation process as examining disparities in public health. What this truth and reconciliation process or commission does, and what is unique about it, is that it brings the diversity and inclusion aspect of UConn and then the health aspect of UConn in one committee, in one commission. So what we kind of see is like health is it's kind of its own thing right now at UConn, and then addressing diversity issues is kind of its other own thing. But we don't see those two bodies mended together, although there's a bunch of things that intersect with each other when you talk about health and you talk about racism. And what this Truth and Reconciliation Commission does is intersect those two very important topics of discussion that we have at this university into one body. With that, that's kind of all I have. Please read through the legislation if you have it, and if you have any questions, yeah.
Okay, thank you, Michael. So now what we're going to do is we are going to move into questions. So if you have a question for Michael, for any of the other authors, just raise your hand, and I'll call on you. You can come up to the microphone. Okay, seeing none, we're going to move into discussion. Any points of discussion on this piece of legislation? Okay, seeing none, we're going to move into voting. Now, given the nature of the legislation, I will avoid doing passing it by unanimous consent in general. I think legislation should be voted on. So what I would like to do is to have everyone go into the WebEx room so we can run a poll, but I want to know if that's possible because I think that there might be some of you who can't potentially if you're on a cell phone. If you are on a cell phone, can you still vote? Okay, awesome. So what we'll try to do then is, does everyone have the email I sent out that has the hybrid option with the link to the WebEx room? I should have sent it, there should have been an email that went out earlier today. I'll find for you, I'll just stop sharing my screen. I'll find the name of it if that helps. Okay, so I sent out an email titled Tonight's USG Senate 11/3/21. The email went out at 4:30 p.m. If anyone has trouble finding the email still, just let me know. If you look at that email, there is a line that says here is a link to the agenda and here's a link to the online room. So if you click on the online room, you should find yourself in the WebEx room, and I'm going to run a poll in there so that everybody can vote on this piece of legislation. Okay, seeing as although we do have 4 people that have not voted yet, the votes will not make a difference in the outcome of this piece of legislation. This piece of legislation does pass by a vote of 25 in favor, 0 against, 2 abstaining, 4 people have not voted, but it would not make a difference. So this piece of legislation passes. Congratulations to the authors. Okay, so we have one final piece of legislation on the agenda. Thank you all for bearing with us. I'll be sharing my screen momentarily. Okay, we're back up. So the next piece of legislation is a motion to pass a bill concerning the establishment of a one-semester grace period for CSD accommodation. So would the authors like to come up and present the legislation? That one might be easier, it's up to you. And just let me know if you want me to scroll up or down.
All right, I have it on my phone, so it should
Okay,
be
perfect.
Hi everyone, my name's Abby and I'm the ex officio senator for Disabilities, and this is Rory. She is one of the other authors. So this piece of legislation aims to create a one-semester grace period for students that need accommodations to receive them without diagnostic documentation. So a lot of what I'm using as my argument here is the AHEAD best practices. And what AHEAD is it's the professional organization that sets forth the industry best practices. And UConn is currently not in compliance with those best practices, but instead of calling for UConn to be in compliance with the best practices, we're calling for it for one semester. So what this would look like is students will give a comprehensive, clear self-report of their disability, their accommodation, or what accommodations they think they would find helpful, and then also what their impairments are. And then they would need to meet with a disability service provider, a DSP, who would evaluate them since they are professionals, and AHEAD also sets out guidance for what these kind of interactions would look like. A lot of universities that are comparable to UConn do follow these best practices. I listed a few of them just if you wanted to look into other universities and what they do. And then I also went into what the documentation at our CSD looks like. So it's very heavily focused on diagnostic information. They like to have documentation from a provider saying this is what the student's diagnosed with, these are their impairments, and this is what they need. However, requiring a diagnosis and medical history is incredibly exclusive of all sorts of groups of people. It could be students with a lower socioeconomic status that can't afford diagnoses that cost thousands of dollars. These are so expensive. And there may be undocumented students that may not have a medical history or are unable to provide documentation for whatever reason, and some conditions come on quickly, so students might not have time to get accommodations before they need them. So, yes. And then I also talked about how this is also in line with what Michael was just talking about how racism is a public health crisis at these universities. So this is just another way of us tackling that goal by providing accommodations for all students with disabilities, especially Black students with disabilities, because they are disproportionately affected by disability in comparison with all other race groups. And that's pretty much it for like the big pieces of the legislation. And then it would just be the last, therefore finally be a resolved clause where we are calling essentially for the industry best practices to be followed for one semester. So students will have to provide a self-report, they'll have to meet with the DSP, and give whatever evidence they are able to. So yeah, please let me know if you have any questions. I anticipate there might be a few, so I would be happy to answer them.
Perfect, thank you, Abby. Thank you both for writing this. Does anyone have any questions for the authors? See a question back there, Reese, you want to come up?
So I just wanted some clarification on the role of the DSP. Would they be like monitoring the student over a period of time in order to determine if their self-report is valid? Is it like a singular day observation? Is it like in an academic setting? Like I just wanted some more clarification on that.
Sure. So this would probably be in, I forget which footnote it is. I think it might be like the first to the second, the footnote where it talks about what the AHEAD best practices are. generally what it looks like is it's basically a very individual process. That's how accommodations were intended to be, a process that's specific to the individual and specific to their disability. So it could look like an online survey asking the student more questions about what information the DSP needs to know. It could be an interview talking about, hey, what are your accommodations? What do you think you might need? Or what experiences have you had in the past that make you think that this might be helpful for you? And it could also look like transferring the student to other services if they determine that accommodations are not necessary. They might require other resources on campus that might be more helpful. Yeah, does that answer your question?
Thank you.
Okay, great question. Any other questions? Just raise your hand. Yeah, Eric, what's up? Oh, yeah.
So I just wanted to know, what is the response of the CSD to this bill? Is there any response, do you know? I guess that's the different question.
Sure. So this bill is calling on the CSD to enact this policy, so we are effectively introducing them right now to this idea. In the coming weeks, I will be contacting Donna Corbell and the other associate directors of CSD, and we will hopefully be able to figure out a good solution moving forward.
Any other questions? Yeah, Damani,
Yeah.
just ask them there, that'd be easier.
I asked you this question during ad fairs, and the same question here, because I liked the answer, and I think other people should hear as well. But could you speak to why you selected this font in particular?
Of course. So Comic Sans is the most accessible font, proven by research. So part of this was because I forgot to change it because I write all of my notes in Comic Sans because I find it easy to read. But people with visual disabilities in particular, they might find it hard for like certain letters to be distinguished from each other, especially when there's like a lot of extra lines and curls and things that can make it hard to read. So I always write in Comic Sans for my fonts because all like the thicker letters, they're bolder, they're simple, they're easy for people with disabilities to read. So that's why I presented my legislation in this way, because I wanted it to be accessible.
Any other questions? Great question, Damani. Any other questions? Yeah, do you want to come up?
So it says in the legislation that you have a 1 semester grace period. Would this be per reported disability? So say you're struggling with like anxiety 1 semester and depression in another, or would it just be 1 semester grace period overall?
So it would probably be, I think it depends on when you would report it. So if you report multiple disabilities and multiple types of impairments at one time, although it should be noted in this policy, we're not requiring a diagnosis. So you can say, these are my impairments, and I have anxiety, but if you don't have a diagnosis, then CSD likely won't recognize that you have anxiety. They'll just recognize that you have you have impairments that constitute a disability under the law. So I would say that this is something that we would want to iron out with CSD in particular when they're writing this policy, but my inclination would be to say that it's per reported impairment. So if you report a couple impairments at one time, you get a semester to hopefully get yourself a diagnosis. There's resources available. We have financial resources. So we would hopefully be getting you a diagnosis so you could continue that.
See, Joe has a question. If you want to just ask it to the mic. Yeah.
Does student health services have anything to do with this? Are they working with student health services?
So Shaw is not the entity at UConn that provides reasonable accommodations for students with disabilities. That all goes through the Center for Students with Disabilities. Ideally, we would have the two organizations working together because there are a lot of mental health disabilities as well, and Shaw can definitely diagnose students. So ideally, we would have that partnership, but again, diagnoses are really expensive and not all students are able to get that.
Okay, any other questions? All right, seeing none, we're going to move into discussion. Thank you to the authors for discussion. Now these are opportunities for you as senators to bring up points maybe that you have about the legislation. It really can be anything that doesn't end in a question mark. So does anyone have any points of discussion? Okay, seeing none, we're going to move into a vote. So we're going to follow the same process that we just followed with the previous legislation. I'm going to open up another poll on the WebEx room. And if anyone has any difficulties, please just let me know. All right, still waiting on 7 people. If we could just speed it up so we can go home.
People like to take their time voting.
I can tell.
Is this how you guys are at the polls?
Election day yesterday.
Yeah, I
Oh,
know.
I know Brandon.
It took me a while.
You don't want to double fill anything, otherwise they just throw it out.
Okay, so we still have 4 people. Now we still have 4 people who have not voted, but it won't change the outcome of the legislation. So looking at the vote right now, we have in favor of 25 to 2 to 3, this piece of legislation passes. Congratulations to the authors. Okay, and with that, we have completed the pieces of legislation that are on the voting items, which means, let me go back to sharing my screen so that all of you can see. Share. Okay, which means that we move into discussion. Are there any points of discussion? Announcements? Yeah, we'll leave it.
No, I don't want no discussion.
Any points of discussion? Okay, seeing none, we move into announcements. So the first announcement is, of course, the announcement I think that all of you have been waiting for. So if Chief Justice Lau, you want to come up? Did you want to come here?
Hello. I mean, I'll stand here. All right. Hey, everybody. Thanks for waiting. Feeling better about the vote. Again, we'll send out a full written decision about, our rationale, but what you guys have been waiting for, with a vote of 18 to 19, Joe is your new parliamentarian. Again, if you guys have any questions, please let us know, and thank you guys all for your patience.
Oh my goodness. Well, the fact that the vote was so close, I think makes it worth it that we were all waiting for so long. Congratulations to both of you, because the fact that it was so close means that it was like both of you putting in so much effort. Amazing. I think that's probably the closest parliamentarian election we've had in a long time. Okay, so with that, we have one final announcement, and this is actually very important, so I encourage you all to pay attention. I'm going to have Michael come up in a second, and I'm also having Ethan speak on this a little bit. But essentially, we have a conference that's coming up, and all of you are up for consideration to attend if you're interested. So there's a conference in the spring. Michael's going to speak about it in a bit, and we're looking for senators to take with us. Michael, do you want to come up and give some more context? Yeah.
Hello, everyone. So from March 24th to the 28th, we're going to be sending 8 of you, along with 8 people from exec, to the conference on student government associations in Texas, Texas A&M. So what COSGA is pretty much its name, a conference on student government associations, and it's a great opportunity to talk to other student government associations, undergraduate student governments, association of student governments, however they go by, across the country, in order to get new ideas, fresh perspectives to bring back to us to always talk about here at USG. I'm going to invite Ethan up in a minute, but essentially what happened is I have sent out an email last Friday that all of you can apply in order to be considered to go to COSGA. That application needs to be submitted by next Friday at 12 p.m. The way that's going to be considered is there's a number of different things that you need to fill out, but also throughout the next couple of weeks we are going to be watching each and one of you in committees as well as in Senate in terms of participation, as well as bringing up new ideas and also participating in the different functions and initiatives that we have going on in USG. And that will be in part a determination of whether or not individuals go, because we want to bring the most active individuals that will be able to network and work with other student governments in order to bring back fresh and new perspectives and ideas to present and initiate in front of all of you and to the student body. So please, please, please apply. It's an awesome opportunity. It's an awesome opportunity to connect with leadership. It's an awesome opportunity to connect with each other. An awesome opportunity to learn a lot of new things and connect with other student government associations and see how they function. Ethan could talk more about this, but Husky Market came from COSGA. And that's been an amazing initiative that we've been doing for a while now. So yeah, please, please, please apply. Before we go, I'm going to have Ethan come up and talk a little bit about what COSGA meant for him in order to kind of inspire you guys to apply.
Inspiring might be challenging, but I'll do my best. Husky Market was, and I think I can speak for Damani and Holly Ann, who were also there. Our freshman year, Damani, Holly, and I went to COSGA for a couple days. It was a small group of people, around 8 or so, and I can say that it was one of the most transformative experiences of my college career, is going. And being there with the people who both went, and being there with the people who went from everywhere else. And it's incredible. Like, it is incredible. And Husky Market, in some form, came from there. Another student government association who was there presented about a food pantry that was entirely run by their student government. A fully fledged food pantry with a community garden. It was incredible to watch. And we thought to ourselves, maybe we can do something like that. And we've since changed our program to be more specific to our times of COVID. We couldn't open an actual in-person food pantry the past year or so. But that's the dream was started those 3 years ago, or I guess 4 years ago, at COSGA. So I definitely encourage everyone to apply if you're interested. I know that there's a committee of people who's going to be deciding who's able to come or not, because it'll probably be very competitive. But if you're a freshman, like I was last year,